Look, I'm not the type of person who believes in paranormal stuff. I mean, I watch those ghost hunting shows sometimes when I can't sleep, but I never actually thought any of that was real. So when this whole thing started, I spent way too long trying to convince myself there was a logical explanation. My wife and I were expecting our first kid. She was about 7 months along at the time, and we were doing that thing where you try to get everything ready, but you're also trying not to spend a fortune because, babies are expensive. So we'd been hitting up yard sales every Saturday morning, looking for the basics. A changing table here, some onesies there, that kind of thing. It was actually kind of nice, walking around the neighborhood together before it got too hot, her rubbing her belly and talking about color schemes for the nursery. This particular Saturday, we stopped at this sale on Maple Street, maybe 4 blocks from our house. Older couple, looked like they were downsizing. You could tell from the stuff. Nice furniture, old china sets, that sort of thing. The baby monitor was sitting on a folding table with a bunch of electronics. Nothing fancy, just a basic video monitor with a camera unit and a handheld screen. The box was there too, a little beat up but complete. $25. The old woman running the sale said her daughter had used it for their grandkids, but they'd moved to tablets and phone apps now. Made sense. I tested the power button, the screen flickered on, seemed fine. Sarah was tired. Her feet were swelling up in the heat, so we headed home after that. I spent the afternoon putting together a crib we'd gotten the week before, and around 7 p.m. I decided to set up the monitor, just to get it out of the way. The nursery was almost done by then. We'd painted it this soft green color, put up some shelves, hung these little woodland creature prints Sarah had found on Etsy. I plugged in the camera unit on top of the dresser, angled it toward where the crib was, and took the handheld screen with me to the living room to make sure the signal worked through the walls. Sarah was on the couch, watching some cooking show, half asleep. The screen took a few seconds to connect, and when it did, I saw a room. But it wasn't our nursery. I mean, it looked similar at first glance, same kind of layout, dresser in the same spot, but the walls were different. Beige, not green. And there was already a crib in the frame, with what looked like a mobile hanging above it, those little animals that spin around. Huh, I said out loud. Sarah glanced over. What? I think this thing is picking up someone else's monitor, like a neighbor or something. She laughed a little. Seriously? That's weird. It wasn't that weird, actually. I'd read about baby monitors interfering with each other if they were on the same frequency, especially the older analog ones. I went back to the nursery and moved the camera to a different outlet, thinking maybe the signal would clear up. Came back to the living room and looked at the screen again. Same room, same beige walls. The mobile was slowly rotating. Still someone else's room, I told Sarah. She'd already lost interest, her eyes back on the TV. I sat down and stared at the screen for a minute, trying to figure out which neighbor it might be. The Hendersons across the street had a new baby, but I'd been in their house for a barbecue last month and their nursery was upstairs, different layout entirely. The Chens 2 doors down had a kid, but he was like 4 years old now, way past the crib stage. I turned the monitor on and off again. Same room appeared. That's when I started feeling weird about it. Not scared yet, just off. Because the more I looked, the more I realized the room I was seeing wasn't just similar to ours, it was identical to how our nursery looked 3 weeks ago before we painted. Same beige walls from the previous owners, same placement of furniture because we hadn't moved anything when we repainted, just covered it all with tarps. I got up and went back to the nursery, looking around, trying to compare what I was seeing on the screen with what was in front of me. The camera was pointed at our green walls, our empty crib spot, but the screen showed beige walls and a fully set-up crib. Maybe it's like a delay, I said to myself, like it's showing old footage. But that didn't make sense. Baby monitors don't record, they're live feed only. I picked up the box the monitor came in and found the manual, this thin little booklet with specs and setup instructions. Nothing about recording features, nothing about memory, just a basic live video feed system. Sarah called from the living room. You want ice cream? I'm going to make a bowl. Yeah, sure, I called back, but I wasn't really paying attention. I was watching the screen. The mobile in the beige room had stopped spinning, and I could see something in the corner of the frame now, just barely visible. Looked like the edge of a rocking chair.
We'd had a rocking chair in that exact spot before Sarah decided she wanted it by the window instead for better light. I don't know how long I stood there staring at it. Could have been 5 minutes, could have been 20. But then something moved in the frame. Just a shadow at first, passing across the wall. Then a figure stepped into view. A woman, dark hair, maybe 30s, wearing a nightgown or a long t-shirt or something. She walked to the crib and looked down into it, and I could see her back, her shoulders moving like she was doing something with her hands, adjusting a blanket maybe. I couldn't see her face. My stomach dropped. This wasn't a recording. This was happening right now. Somewhere, in real time, I was watching this woman in a room that looked exactly like my nursery used to look. I went back to the living room. Sarah had the ice cream out, was scooping it into bowls. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice normal. "What was the address of that yard sale? The one with the monitor?" She thought about it. "Maple Street, right? I don't know the number. Why?" "Just curious." I pulled out my phone and opened Google Maps, found Maple Street, started scrolling down the street view, looking at house numbers. There are maybe 20 houses on that street total. "You're being weird," Sarah said. "I know, sorry, just trying to figure something out." I sat next to her and ate the ice cream, but I kept the monitor screen on the coffee table, kept glancing at it. The woman was still in the nursery on the monitor, sitting in the rocking chair now. Just sitting there. Not rocking, just sitting. After Sarah went to bed around 10 p.m., I stayed up with the monitor. I know how that sounds, but I couldn't stop watching. The woman eventually left the room. I couldn't see where she went, the camera angle only showed the nursery, and the room was empty for a while. The mobile spun slowly, some kind of air current maybe, or one of those automatic ones. Around midnight, I heard a sound through the monitor speaker. Crying. A baby crying, but it was muffled, distant. Not like the baby was in the crib, more like it was somewhere else in the house, and I was just barely picking it up. The woman came back into frame. She was moving faster this time, her movements jerky. She went to the crib and reached in, picked up something. A baby had to be, though I couldn't see it clearly from the angle. She was bouncing it, that universal parent bounce you do when you're trying to calm a crying kid. But the crying didn't stop. It got louder. She turned, and for just a second, I saw a part of her face, or I thought I did. The image was grainy, and she was backlit by a lamp outside the frame, but her expression looked wrong, stressed, more than stressed, desperate. Then she carried the baby out of frame, and the room was empty again. I should have turned it off, should have just unplugged the thing and gone to bed, but instead I pulled out my laptop and started searching. Maple Street plus our city name plus baby. News articles, public records, Facebook Marketplace, anything. Found it around 1 a.m. An obituary from 8 months ago. Services for Emma Christine Hartwell, age 6 months, beloved daughter of Susan and Michael Hartwell. Maple Street address. Same address as the yard sale. I looked back at the monitor screen. The room was still empty. The mobile was still slowly spinning. The baby had died 8 months ago, in that house, and somehow, some way, I was watching the mother in that room, in that house, right now. I grabbed my phone and almost called 911, or I don't know who, but what would I even say? I bought a baby monitor that shows ghosts? They'd think I was insane. I thought I was insane. I walked to the window and looked out at the street. Everything was dark, quiet, normal. Our neighborhood at 1 a.m. on a Saturday night. A dog barked somewhere. When I came back to the couch, the monitor was on the nursery again. Just standing there, in the middle of the room, not moving, her back to the camera, her head down like she was looking at something on the floor. But there was nothing there, just carpet. She stood like that for probably 10 minutes. I watched the whole time. Then she lifted her head, and she turned. She looked directly at the camera. I'm telling you, she looked right at it, right at me, and her face. I turned the monitor off, just hit the power button and threw it on the couch cushion like it had burned me. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding hard. I could hear it. I sat there in the dark living room for I don't know how long, just breathing, telling myself it was just a weird coincidence, just some technical glitch, just my mind playing tricks because it was late and I'd psyched myself out with that obituary. But I knew what I'd seen. I left the monitor off all Sunday. Told Sarah I thought it was broken, needed to exchange it somehow. She shrugged it off. We had other stuff to worry about. Her mom was coming to visit, we needed to clean the house, normal life stuff. But Sunday night, after Sarah was asleep, I turned it on again. The room was dark this time, low light, like from a hallway or a nightlight. I could barely make out the furniture, the crib, the dresser, the rocking chair, and the woman sitting in the chair, in the dark, just sitting, watching the crib. I watched her watch the empty crib for 2 hours. She didn't move, didn't rock, just sat there. At 3 a.m., I heard my phone buzz. Text message, unknown number. Stop watching us. I dropped the phone, actually dropped it on the floor. And when I picked it up with shaking hands and looked at the monitor screen, the woman was standing now, closer to the camera, still in the dark, but I could see her outline. I turned everything off. The monitor, my phone, everything. Sat in the dark, trying to convince myself I'd imagined the text, that it was spam, that it was anything other than what it obviously was. Monday morning, I drove to Maple Street, parked across from the address. It was just a house. Normal suburban house, beige siding, small front yard, basketball hoop in the driveway. There was a car in the driveway. Someone still lived there. I sat there for maybe 15 minutes, trying to decide if I should knock on the door. Tell them what? That I'd been spying on their house through a baby monitor I bought from them? That I'd looked up their dead daughter's obituary? I drove home, put the monitor in a garbage bag, drove it to the dump across town and threw it away. Paid the fee, watched it disappear into a pile of other people's trash. We bought a new monitor at Target the next day. One of those fancy Wi-Fi ones with the app. Works perfectly. Shows exactly what it's supposed to show. But here's the thing that still gets me. Last week, Sarah was scrolling through Facebook and showed me a post from a neighborhood group. Someone asking if anyone had found a baby monitor. Said they'd accidentally sold theirs at a yard sale and wanted to buy it back, willing to pay good money. The profile picture was a woman with dark hair. I told Sarah I didn't know anything about it. Whatever you do, if you see a baby monitor at a yard sale, especially if the people seem really eager to get rid of it, just keep walking. Some things aren't meant to be seen, and some people don't want to be watched back.